Music, Quarter 1, Module 4 and 5, Music of the Medieval and Renaissance Period. Medieval, Renaissance, and Baroque period of music has its distinctive characteristics, historical, and cultural background. A type of music from the medieval era is Gregorian chant, which was mainly used in the early Christian church. Music during Renaissance period became an important leisure activity. Music in the upper class were expected to have received musical training. Imitative polyphony is the distinctive characteristics of Renaissance music. The Baroque period is characterized by grand and elaborate ornamentation of sculptures, theaters, arts, and music. The music genres which flourished during the Baroque period were the concerto, the fugue, the oratorio, and the chorale. Music evolved alongside with man's constant quest for growth and development. Let's start first with the music of the medieval period. The medieval period is also known as the Middle Ages or Dark Ages that started with the fall of the Roman Empire. During this time, the Christian Church influenced Europe's culture and political affairs. Monophonic plainchant was named after Pope Gregory I, who made this the approved music of the Catholic Church. So Pope Gregory's action made monophonic plainchants popular. Although it was originally transmitted orally, scholars agreed to put it in notation to assist dissemination of chants across Europe. What are the characteristics of the Gregorian chants? 1, it is monophonic, it is free meter, it is modal and usually based on Latin liturgy, and there's the use of gnome notation. During the latter part of the medieval period, secular music, which was not bound by Catholic traditions, emerged. Most of these songs were performed across Europe by groups of musicians called troubadours. Now let's listen to an example of a troubadour, of a Gregorian chant. Okay, so that is an example of a Gregorian chant. What are the characteristics of a troubadour music? It is usually monophonic and sometimes with improvised accompaniment. It tells of chivalry and courtly love, and it originated in France and was written in the French language. Let's listen to an example of a troubadour music.
Joy
Okay, so that is an example of the music of the troubadours. For the famous composer of the medieval period, well, let's start with Adam de la Halle. This is an example of one of his works. This is Le Jeu de Robin et de Marie. Okay, so that is an example of one of the works of Adam de la Halle. So let's proceed with the music of the Renaissance period. The term Renaissance comes from the word renaître, which means rebirth, revival, and rediscovery. The Renaissance period is a period of looking back to the golden age of Greece and Rome. The famous composers of the Renaissance period and the works, let's start with Giovanni Pierluigi da Palestrina. Now his works include Kyrie, or Lord have mercy, from Pope Marcellus Mass. Let us listen to the Kyrie of Giovanni da Palestrina. So that is an example of the work of Giovanni da Palestrina. Another one, Thomas Merton. Fire, 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 my heart, my heart, my heart, la 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 la. So that is Fire, Fire, My Heart by Thomas Merlin. So aside from that, his work also includes Sing, We Enchant It, Fantasy, April is My Mistress' Face, and It Was a Lover and His Lass. What are the music of genres of Baroque music? First is the concerto. It is a form of orchestral music that employs a solo instrument accompanied by an orchestra. Okay, let's watch this. They're using a violin. That's a solo instrument. Next is Concerto Grosso, which is a form of orchestral music during the Baroque period, wherein the music is between a small group of solo instruments called concertino, and the whole orchestra is called tutti. Now, one example is Handel's Concerto Grosso for two violins, cello, strings, and basso continuo. Let's listen. Okay, so that is the example of Handel's Concerto Grosso. Now, the third one is Fugue. It is a contrapuntal piece developed mainly by imitative counterpoint. It is usually written in 3 or 4 parts with a main theme called subject. Now, the entire piece grows mainly from a single brief tune of strong musical character. An example is Bach's Toccata and Fugue in D minor. Let's listen. Okay, that is Bach's Toccata and Fugue in D minor. Now, the fourth one is Oratorio, which is a large-scale musical composition for orchestra and voices that incorporates narratives on religious themes. Unlike usual theatrical works, this is usually performed without the use of costumes, scenery, or action. So it is usually written in the native language for the intended audience. Now let's watch and listen to Handel's Messiah. This is the example of an oratorio. Okay, so that is an example of an oratorio. Now, next one is the chorale, which is a musical compositions that resemble a harmonized version of hymnal tunes of the Protestant church during the Baroque era, the example of which are Baroque chorale and trio chorale. So that would be it for today. Thank you.